Good day, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening. It's 1 o'clock here in Geneva, and so we begin our Minamata online session today on the 5th of April. My name is Claudia ten Hafer. I'm the Senior Policy and Coordination Officer of the Minamata Secretariat, and I'm very pleased to be joined today by three of my colleagues. Firstly, Ana Garcia Sanz, the Communication and Knowledge Management Officer, by Richard Gutierrez, our Program Officer working on national reporting, and by Lynn Doan, our Program Management Assistant, who keeps things going on the back of many different processes, not only our meeting here, but most importantly also the national reporting process. We will be taking you through a number of steps in terms of the launch of the second short reports that is upcoming for the Minamata Convention, and that is due by the end of this year. And let me go to the next slide to give you an overview of how we intend to structure our presentation for your orientation today. So firstly, we have structured it into 7 chapters, and I will be joined at various times by the colleagues I've just introduced to explain in more detail some of these parts. And of course, there should be time at the end should you have any specific questions for further clarification or wish to check in on any other element. And of course, afterwards, we are also ready to answer any more questions, not only today, but as you go along and for the deadline by the end of this year. But as you can see here, we have prepared 7 chapters. First, I will give a brief introduction on the reporting obligations and the timelines, specifically for the second short reports. I will give a couple of insights and lessons learned from the 2 sets of reports we already have in the Minamata Convention. That's the first short reports and the second and the first full reports. Then Anna will guide you a little bit in terms of our online reporting tool and show you how to begin your preparations to submit the second short reports in that online reporting tool, or we have started to call it the ORT. Thereafter, Lynn is going to introduce the offline paper version, which we've prepared previously and now again to help you as national focal points and all the other officials to gather the information to have it ready by the time you go to the online reporting tool to enter the information. And then I will ask Richard to give you a bit of guidance on how to respond to the 4 questions, or at least where to find the information on how to go about responding to those questions in the short reports. Then we have a short information stop on the role of the national focal points in case there's any clarity that you may need on that. And we will also show you as the 7th topic where to find what parties have reported on so far. So with that as background, let me dive right in to the first chapter, which is the reporting obligations. And I see many familiar names here, so I know that you're probably quite aware of the reporting obligations. But for consistency and for comprehensiveness, let me take you to the next 2 slides. The first one is just to recall that it is, of course, Article 21 that outlines the obligations of each party to report on the measures taken to implement the conventions, as well as on the effectiveness of those measures, and also if there are challenges that the party is facing in meeting the objectives of the convention. To this text, which you will find in the convention text, come also 3 decisions. The first one is the decision at COP1 that sets the timing and format of reporting for the parties, and it was decided that they would be reporting on a biannual basis. The short reports, which give 4 questions, and these 4 questions are to be answered every 2 years, and the full reports, which is the full set of 43 questions, and those are to be answered every 4 years. Also to note is that COP3 set out a decision to prepare guidance to assist parties in completing the national reporting format, and this guidance was presented to COP4 and is indicated here as document 17. And also at the most recent COP in Bali, we had decision 4.8 that gave a number of clarifications that were requested and other information necessary for good reporting. With that, let me go to the next slide to give you an overview in time in terms of not only the COPs, already the ones that have happened, as well as the ones upcoming. We are, of course, looking forward to seeing you at COP5 at the end of the year, but COP6 would be happening 2 years thereafter. And so the reporting cycle, in a way, is also set up by the decision that I outlined earlier for the short reports to be for 2 years and then having a whole year to collect the information and report by the end of that 3rd year. So the first short reports were due in December 19, and by the same logic, the first full reports over 4 years were due by December 21. And what we would like to introduce to you today is, of course, now the second short reports that cover 2021 and 2022. In other words, 1st of January 21 until 31st of December 2022. And the reports on these 2 years of implementation are due by the end of this year. This will be followed in due time by the second full reports, and they would be due by the end of 2025. Moving to the next slide. Just to recall that the entire reporting format consists of 5 parts. Part A, general information. Part B, which is the body of the report because it consists of 43 questions for the long reports and of 4 questions for the short reports. But then there's also, very importantly, Part C, where parties have an opportunity to comment on challenges they may be facing in meeting the obligation and the objective of the convention, and Part D, where parties have the opportunity to comment on the reporting format and any possible areas of improvements, and also Part E, where parties have the opportunity to provide additional comments on any of the articles as they move through the reporting format. Taking us to the next slide. In a nutshell, what we are looking at now is, of course, your preparation and to support you to prepare the short reports, which are due at the end of this year. And as mentioned, the reporting period is 1st of January 2021 until 31st of December 2022. The 4 questions that are due for reporting now are question 3.1c, 3.3a, 3.5, and 11.2. Many of you are probably familiar with these questions, but the 3 indicates that the first 3 questions all relate to obligations under Article 3, while the 11 indicates an obligation related to Article 11. But we'll go in detail into some of those questions later if you're not so familiar with them yet. Just to indicate and to announce that following this Minamata online session today, the ORT, the online reporting format tool, will be opened, and the national focal points will be receiving their personalized login credentials to access the ORT and can begin from today to collect the information they need and to begin populating the information in the ORT. I'd also like to say that we are very happy that in the coming weeks we will also be able to announce to you that an online training course, a short online training course, will be made available for the short reports. It's not quite ready yet, but we are fine-tuning it, and we hope that that will be an additional resource for you or any colleagues that may assist you in reporting to prepare for the short reports. Moving to the next slide. I just want to show you where on our website you can find the different decisions that are relevant to reporting. Firstly, there is the decision of COP1, decision 1.8 on the reporting format and also on the timing of reporting. Simply go to our website and click COP1, and under COP1 you can click documents and then specifically decisions, and there you will find all the decisions and certainly also decision 1.8. Moving to the next slide, COP3, as indicated, also passed the decision relevant to national reporting, and this time it was a decision to request the Secretariat to work on guidance for completing the national reporting format. And that decision, by the same logic, you can find under COP3, documents, and again the tab that says decisions. And then the next slide, which is COP4. At COP4, especially in light of the lessons learned from the first set of short reports, the COP was able to make some clarifications here and there, and we will show you also later in the presentation where those are. And so in this decision, decision 4.8, if you'd like to have a look at the original text from that, you can find it under COP4, Documents, and then there's a Decisions tab, which I see has just been cut off the slide, but you can find it there. Moving on to the next slide, I would like to give you just a flavor of some of the insights and lessons learned we've had so far from the first short reports and the first full reports. In other words, this is the time from the entry into force of the convention, 16th of August 2017, and going all the way until December 2020. So moving to the next slide. Firstly, on this slide, as you know, the deadline is always the 31st of the specific year. So 2019, it was for the first set of short reports, and 2021 for the first set of full reports. And we were extremely happy to see a very good improvement of submissions by the deadline. In other words, before the 31st. In the first set, 56% of parties reported on time with complete reports. But for the second set, the full reports, we were very impressed, given that it was so much more complex and more to answer, that 71 parties completed their reports on time. This is really marvelous, and I think parties can be very, very proud of themselves in this way and what they did to make the deadline. With the next slide, the news actually gets even better, because we have also been continuing, of course, to follow up with parties that might not have made the deadline or might have had valid reason to perhaps need to send it a month or so later. And so actually, as of today, we are very happy to say that we received 91% of all short reports and 93% of all full reports. And this is really not only for Minamata standards, but compared to other conventions, and given that this is not an obligation that comes with extra financial assistance, this is really a very, very solid indication of ownership of parties. And certainly for the Secretariat, we are very, very grateful to see this. Moving to the next slide. We have just an indication for you by region in terms of a submission rate by the 31st of December, both for the short reports and the long reports. And the next slide shows you what we have now. And you can see that we have two regions that are fully that have fully reported for the short reports, one region that has fully reported for the long reports. And here and there, we're just awaiting a handful. In fact, we are only awaiting 9 reports still to be submitted of all the parties that needed to submit reports. So that is really marvelous, we believe. The next slide shows you a dashboard, and Anna will speak to this a little bit later, but just for you to see, because we have also created a dashboard so that you can access the information that is contained in national reports. And this is a flavor of the information that is available. And just to show you the spike of activity before the 31st of December, many of you worked very, very hard in the last days of the year between, for those that celebrate Christmas and New Year's, to get the reports in. And then, of course, as I mentioned, others followed afterwards. So we have all the data when the reports were submitted and when they either before the deadline or on time for the deadline or thereafter. Our dashboard also shows you the languages in which reports are submitted, and most parties choose to submit in English, although the reporting format and the ORT is available in all 6 languages. And so we also have some parties submitting the reports in French, in Spanish, in Arabic, and in Chinese. These reports are all uploaded on our website, and those that are not in English, the Secretariat provides a courtesy translation that it checks again with the party for accuracy. And so while it's not an official translation, it is therefore also accessible for the ICC and others that work in English. Let me take us to the next slide. Just to capture here that we had noticed in the first short reports that there were some areas in the questions that needed some clarification, and the decision that was passed at COP4 greatly helped, we believe, not only that clarification, but also help parties in the full reports. And in reflecting overall on the outcomes of the first short reports and the first full reports, we see that here and there's a terminology aspect that parties in the COP may need to or wish to engage on, and that, for example, the term primary mercury mining may be either misunderstood to include ASGM, and we have therefore then reached out to the party and helped them understand that it's not referring to ASGM, but simply only to primary mercury mining. And in such cases where perhaps there was just a mistake made, a report can be corrected and it is logged that such a report is then corrected. But this is just for your extra information. But further on the terminology, there's also the matter that some parties made a distinction in their reporting on what they call formal, informal, unrecognized, or illegal primary mercury mining. And we saw that the word endeavor, which proved perhaps a little complex in the first set of short reports, is being better understood now following the clarification at COP4. We hope that the information that is coming forward from these endeavors will also reach the COP in due time. I see there should have been a fourth bullet here on final disposal. Final disposal was initially not so well understood, that is in the first short reports, but the COP4 decision gave some further clarity to it, and we believe that the answers were more clearer from parties with that clarification. Just two last items to mention, the last two bullets, namely that the reporting formats asks in various areas that parties also report on the effectiveness of the measures taken. And here we notice that perhaps some parties struggle to answer this question or to reflect on this question, and that might be something to reflect on further for helping parties going forward. We also noted that in some cases parties attached MIAs and other reports rather than extracting the relevant information that we would need for the question, and we hope that in future parties could extract that information to make it relevant to some of the questions, as it is beyond the scope of the Secretariat to find very specific information in large reports. But I'm sure we can work on a detail like that in the future. As time is moving on, and I have a couple of very interesting chapters coming up, let me move to the next slide, which is just a set of bubbles of some of the comments that we have heard either through the reporting option where parties can comment directly on their experience on national reporting, or we have heard through other exchanges with parties. And I leave this for you here, but I'm happy to speak to you or to explain any of the others in the question and answer time if relevant. What I would like to highlight here is that we were very impressed that many parties chose to use the free text spaces in the report to give additional information. And this again is very helpful to understand challenges and also the effectiveness of measures. And moving on, and now I will be extremely happy to hand over to my colleague Anna to introduce us to the online reporting tool. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Now it is time to get ready for the online reporting tool the Secretariat has opened for completing the second short national reports. But before we go into its features and how you will work on it, let us play a kickoff video. Dean, please, if you can put the video on. Thank you. So today, as mentioned, is the kickoff day. We are opening the ORT, the online reporting tool. And later on, each national focal point will receive personalized login credentials, meaning a unique account with a safe password to access the tool and a guide on how to use it. Then you will log into the ORT. It's pretty obvious, and start your report. If you need any assistance, the Secretariat will be able to help you, no matter if it's a technical issue or a substantive aspect. Once you have started working on your report, you can fill in all the parts and all the questions in any of the 6 UN languages. And in a minute, I will show you live how it looks like and its main functionalities. But before submitting the report, please review all your responses. You can also review them at the preview screen stage before submitting it. You click submit before the 31st of December, and you will receive an acknowledgement email from the Secretariat. The Secretariat then will review the report to check for completeness, including any missing information or attachment, or if some responses need clarification. And once the report is considered final by both sides, it will be published on the website and made available on the ORT for you for checking. And a confirmation email will send to the national focal point. Now we will move into the ORT to see how it looks like using a test account. So give me 1 minute to share my screen. Let me am I sharing my screen? Yes. Okay, so this is the first screen that you will see once that you log in into the ORT, which is an intro page with some instructions and advice. Please read them. There is also some reference to the offline reporting, the offline paper version that Lynn will explain you later on, the draft reporting guidance and the user guide. From this table that you can see here, you can start and keep working on your report, check the previous ones if you have submitted them, and you can also log out from the session. The reporting, as you can see now here, is available in the 6 UN languages. Please use the top switcher to change the language. Now, it is Chinese, but I will move back again to English. The progress will be saved automatically as you move in any step, but on the bottom of the screen, there's a save draft button that we encourage you to click save, especially if you are attaching something or if you need to log out from the session. It is also seems clear that as you can save the session, you can log out and log in and keep working in different times. Information on part A, as you can see here, which is information on the party. As I mentioned, this is a test user account, but will be mostly pre-populated according to the information that we have from parties and national focal points information. So most likely there won't be any information to add. Moving on here, you can check on the right side bar the completion status of your report. You can go from part A to part B, but at the same time, you can jump into any section as you wish to complete. And in part B, you can see here the questions. Below every question, we have added a link for ease of reference to the paragraph, to the related paragraph, you can see here, and a link to the extract question from the reporting guidance, as you can see here, and this link will appear below all the questions. There's also automatic logic pipelining depending on your reply. If you reply yes to question 3.1 on primary Mercury mines, you will see that then the display of the reply is different. Before completing, before submitting the report, there's a preview stage where you can see all your replies and check them before clicking submit. You can also print a copy and save it for your future reference. Nevertheless, you will always have access to your report going back to your account and checking it from the table. There's a technical team ready to help you. Please contact the Secretariat if you're experiencing any challenges, whether it's technical or substantive, to complete the report. And remember to finalize it by 31st of December this year, so we will keep our reporting rate high as it was from the previous one. I hope you find the online reporting tool useful, and thank you very much, and back to you, Claudia.
Thank you, Anna. And Anna really has been the mastermind behind how to put all of this together. So I think, Anna, kudos to you for a very user-friendly, I hope the parties would agree with us on that tool. Let me now ask Lynn to take us to the next set of slides. And here, as our fourth chapter, we wanted to introduce to those of you that might not know this yet, but the offline paper version that we have prepared to help national focal points and others collect the information that is needed for the reporting. So over to Lynn. Could you take us to that paper, please?
Thank you very much, Claudia. Hi, everyone. Let me share with you the offline paper versions. In fact, that I would like to walk you through where to find the offline paper versions on our website. So from our homepage, you can go to Parties, Reporting, and then this is where you will see the relevant information on the second short national report. And if you scroll a bit down, you can find the offline paper versions here by clicking to the button. And then the offline paper version is made available to you in both PDF and Word document for ease of use. And similar to the online reporting tool, in the offline paper versions, you will find the relevant information regarding to the short national report for that is due by 31st December 2023. And this offline paper versions is to has been prepared to facilitate collection and collation of informations for the report, and is only a preparatory tool to assist parties and is not to replace or be a substitute for the reporting through the ORT. So here you will see the introduction page with the relevant information about the overview of the reporting format, the information regard to the information required by or in furtherance to the parties' convention obligations on notifications, national plans, and other submission. And you will also find some reporting preparation tips and technical information to assess and use the ORT. Similarly to the ORT, you will also have the part A where you will fill in the general information of your part of your country, national focal point information, and also if the national report of your country will be prepared and submit by another additional officer, you can provide the information of that contact officer here as well. And part B is where you will answer the the 4 questions of the short national reports. And the Secretariat has added some information for you, as Anna also show with you on the ORT, that you can also find an extract of the draft reporting guidance relevant to the questions by clicking here, just in the hyperlink, and there you have the draft reporting guidance in front of you for your ease of reference when when you're doing the report. And also there's a small note relevant to decisions MC4/8 to questions. For example, questions 3.3. We also have that for questions 3.5 and question 11.2. And then you also have part C, part D, and Part E in the offline paper versions that display on the screen. And just to share with you that the offline paper versions were sent to many of you as national focal point with the letters from our executive secretary of the convention on the 13th of March. As displayed on your screen now, on the left-hand side is the part of the letters, and on your right-hand side is where you can find the letters for your ease of reference. I will now hand over back to Claudia for the next part of the section. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lynn. And just to say, of course, our presentation will be made available to you later. And in many of the items in the presentation, which you'll then have in PDF form, you will actually see items hot linked so that you can get back to that letter or any other item that you might not have handy. I just also wanted to comment that we've had quite a lot of feedback and positive feedback on the use of the offline paper version by parties. Last week, we collected some input from some parties that explain, for example, that as information comes from different parts of different ministries and or even from different ministries, they use this form to send out and ask specific colleagues to enter information into specific areas, and then that allows the national focal point to have an overview of everything that needs to be done. And another party reported how they use it as part also of their outreach with other stakeholders, not only ministerial colleagues or departmental colleagues, but also other stakeholders where they might want other information coming forward. So we hope you too will find this offline paper version a handy tool, but as Lynn indicated, it's not that this tool, which is one-to-one, the same format, of course, as the adopted format, is a replacement for answering the questions in the audit. It is just your pre-step to be able to have all the information handy and literally be able to copy paste back into the online reporting system. Moving to the next chapter, and here I invite Richard to take you through the guidance that is available already for you and for your use to respond to the 4 questions. For many of you, this is the second time that you respond to them in the short format report, and for many, many of you, it is, well, and for almost all of the same, it would have been the 3rd time that you answer to these questions, as they are, of course, the recurrent questions that also appear in the full reports. But Richard, could you take us just through the guidance available and just outline the 4 questions in addition to any clarifications that the COP has provided to make the answering of these 4 questions as easily understood as possible. Please, over to you, Richard.
Thank you very much, Claudia, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. So next slide, please, Lynn. Thank you. So the main document in terms of guidance for in the main document for that guidance is the draft reporting guidance. So the document is meant to clarify the information being sought, and is not intended as a manual on how to implement the articles and obligations. The draft reporting guidance follows the structure of the reporting format. So you have 5 sections, parts A to E. And the draft national reporting guidance was presented at COP4 and is designated as document 4/17. So please consult specifically Part B, and then you can next slide, please. And then Part B will show you 43 questions, but for the short national report, as you have heard previously, these are the ones marked by asterisks in the reporting format. So just as an overview, in the draft national reporting guidance, you will see that it follows the structure, as I mentioned, of the reporting format. Questions will begin with yes or no answer boxes for the most part. And in some instances, you will see options that include don't know or do not know. For questions where further details are requested, you can fill in the text in the space provided and upload attachments or provide links. Next slide, please. Now, thank you. So as a reminder, to enhance information clarity, When a particular question requests for an attachment or a link, and as Claudia mentioned earlier, some parties have attached the reports or names of laws. Please make sure to extract the exact information required for reporting purposes. So this is to facilitate data management as well, and also to ensure that we have, as a secretariat, be able to properly reflect your responses to in your national reports. There are some notes here on the slide, as you will see, on mandatory questions, etc. But the main thing that I wanted to point out to you today is the third bullet, wherein descriptions of the effectiveness of the implementations are sometimes required or prompted in the reporting format. Please make sure that in providing the description of the effectiveness, that it is be particular to the party's situation and capabilities, but should nonetheless be as consistent as possible in the party's report. Thank you. Next slide, please. And now for the next slide, we will go over quickly the questions, the structures of the questions, and also the updates and clarifications that have been provided in Decision 4.8. So question 3.1 relates to primary mercury mining, and it relates to Articles 3, subparagraphs 3 and 4 of the Convention. As you will note at the top of the slide, the question asks whether parties have primary mercury mines operating within its territory at the time of the entry into force of the Convention for it. Please take note that the primary mercury mining is defined under Article 2I of the Convention. And it only relates to practices where the principal material sought is mercury. So this does not apply to ASGM, which is covered in Article 7. So question 3.1 has two option choices for that you will note, yes or no. Now the question in asterisk is item C in your slide to the left, which asks if the party responds yes, to indicate the total amount of mercury mined per metric tons per year. Kindly note that Decision 4.8 provided clarity on point C, that the reporting should be on total amount, and it's now currently reflected in your ORT short national report when you open it, when you open the form. Next slide, please. So the next question is on stocks and sources. So here you will see you have two options, yes or no, and the asterisk is on the yes part. So if the party has endeavored to identify individual stocks and sources of mercury, you are prompted to attach the results of your endeavor or indicate where it is available. As mentioned earlier, when you do attach it, please extract as well the relevant information of the report and add it into the space provided in the ORT. Now, as a supplemental question, provide any related information, for example, on the use disposal of mercury for such stocks and sources. Note as well that COP Decision 4/8 has clarified that the obligation to endeavor is a continuing obligation for parties. And also, we've also noted in this part of the report, please use Part E to explain further some of the information that you might have in terms of context for the endeavor that you are taking, if you feel that you would like to elaborate more. Next slide, please. Here you will find we are now in question 3.5, which relates to Article 3, paragraph 6 to 10 on trade. So this is whether a party has received consent or relied on a general notification of consent to export mercury. Here you will note you now have four option choices that you can choose from. Yes, exports to parties. Yes, exports to non-parties. No, and no export. You will note that no export is a new box, or rather option choice, that was added through decision 4/8 to further clarify the no response. As you will see also in the slide in front of you, if the party responds yes, the party has submitted copies of consent form, no further information is needed. If the party has not yet submitted to the Secretariat the consent forms, it is recommended to do so. And if it's not able to do so, to provide the Secretariat with suitable information showing that the party has met the relevant requirements of paragraph 6 of Article 3. And you will also note that there is a supplemental question that's included in question 3.5, which is to provide information on the use of the exported mercury. And if the party used the general notification of consent under Article 3, paragraph 7, please indicate, if available, the amount of exported mercury and relevant terms that is of the general notification. Next slide, please. And here we have question 11.2, which relates to Article 11 on mercury wastes. So the relevant asterisk portion is on whether there are facilities for final disposal of waste consisting of mercury or mercury compounds in the party's territory. As you will note, you have 3 option choices. And if the party responds yes, kindly indicate, you are prompted to indicate, if available, how much waste consisting of mercury and mercury compounds has been subject to final disposal, and also indicate the disposal operation that has been used. And as you will note in the slide in front of you, there is a space where you can put your explanation in the ORT. Next slide, please. Here you will find the further clarification that COP4 has provided with regard to question 11.2. And as Claudia mentioned earlier, we have found that a handful of parties still struggle with the definition of final disposal, and hopefully with the COP4 clarification, this will be provide additional source of information. And just to quickly summarize what you have in front of you, COP4 has further clarified information on final disposal or where to find facilities. Parties have 5 sources of information to look at. First is the Basel Convention technical guidance. Second is national laws or regulations. Third is national policy and administrative statements. Fourth is the Minamata initial assessments. And last is if a party has developed an implementation plan pursuant to Article 20, that it could also be a source of information to look at for final disposal according to decision 4/8. I believe that's all I have for you. I pass on the mic to Claudia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard. And I'm mindful that we have also promised to give you time for quite some questions. If you may have some, please record them in the chat window. Just as any questions or any reflections that you have, if you could record them then, and then we can arrange ourselves for the Q&A accordingly. But we still have a couple of slides to go. We have another 2 chapters, if I may. The next one is just to remind on the role of the national focal points, and I will ask Lynn to speak to this as she is on the Secretariat side, the one that receives all of and updates all of the national focal point notifications that come in, of course, once they are checked and verified by our legal officer, Lara Ognibene. But just going to the next slide, I just wanted to point out here that the national focal points have a very, very important role, of course, under the Minamata Convention. I'll let Lynn speak to these points here, but just to make the point that the national focal point is certainly for the Secretariat our primary communication point with our party, but it's also an important, or even the primary communication point, one would imagine, between parties as well. And just to say, we also have a number of non-parties that have already made national focal points available, possibly as they are trying to prepare for their own ratification, and also just to be updated on all matters as the convention is moving forward. But please, Lynn, if you would proceed from here to present on the national focal points.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Here, I just to recall that according to the paragraph 4 of Article 17, each party shall designate a national focal point for the exchange of information under this convention, including with regard to the consent of importing parties under Article 3. So, as the custodian of the information reported by parties to the convention under Article 21, the national focal point plays an important role in the process of reporting, and in this regard, the party's report is to be submitted by or through the designated national focal point. So, for parties nominated more than one national focal point, parties are invited to confirm with the Secretariat on among those national focal points who will be the ones submitting the national report. So if you have not done so, please kindly confirm with us by email um, at mea-minamata secretariat@un.org. And this will ensure that the national focal point responsible for reporting will receive the login credentials to the ORT as soon as possible. So for the purpose of compiling and completing the national report, parties may also indicate an additional contact officer. So any requests for clarification or follow-up will be referred to both the national focal point and the additional contact officer. And in the next slide, um, here you will see this is where you will be able to find the list of national focal point on our website by clicking to focal points, and then there will be a drop down menu at the bottom that you can see where you will find all the informations of the national focal point of your country. In the next slide, you will see on the screen is Annex 1 is the template for the designation form, and Annex 2 is the model letters for the designation of national focal point. So the form and the model letters are available on our website. And this form, the Annex 1, should be completed and returned under the cover of an official nomination letters from the government official contact point to the UN Environment Programme, or from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or from the permanent mission to the UN in Geneva, or to the UN Environment Programme, to the attention of the Executive Secretary of the Minamata Convention on Mercury. And here I would like to take these opportunities to emphasize the importance of submitting the form to the Secretariat, because the information provided in the form will really help us to ensure that your country's national focal point information is the most accurate and updated on our database and on the website. Please note that the self-nomination will not be considered, and if you are planning to designate more than one national focal point, please use the form for each individual. And of course, that if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us through the Secretariat mailbox. Thank you. I'm handing over back to Claudia.
Thank you very much, Lynn. We have one more short chapter, but a visual one, because while we've indicated where you might find the different decisions and so on, we'd also like to ensure that you know where you can find your own reports that are uploaded on the website, and or if you would like to look at any of the others of what other parties may have reported. So with the next slide, let me just show you that under parties, you go to reporting, and you will have then a dedicated web page where all the information related to national reporting is there, including all the information we are presenting to you now in terms of the short reports now, but also the past full reports, the past first full reports, and the past first short reports. I'm also very excited to show you the next slide. Yeah, here you see exactly where you can read, where you can peruse any of the submitted reports so far. But the second error that I'd like to draw your attention to is that we have been working, and we were very grateful to receive the support in the COP budget in COP4. We have been working on a dashboard. In fact, Anna, again, is the one that has been masterminding how this may go. And in fact, just to say, some of the other MEAs are considering using our structure of a dashboard to use it in their own national reports as well. But let me allow Anna to speak to this a little bit. But we're very excited to show you here that this dashboard, which actually feeds from the different reports that have been submitted, allows you as a cross-sectional view by question of the answers that are, or the responses that are coming in. So with that, let me go to the next page, the next slide. And Anna, please take it over from here.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Indeed, we are very excited to have been able to prepare a dashboard in just 4 months, considering all the reporting performance from the 2021 full national reports and the quantitative responses. With now we have 135 data visualizations. But let me go to the dashboard and show it how it works live. Yes, I hope that you can see now my screen. So here we are. The first two pages of the dashboard are about performance. And here on the top, you can see the 4 main scorecards with the reporting rate, the total parties for the period, parties that submitted the reports, and the ones that we received by December 2021. Below, there are the graphs showing the status of reports by region, the reporting language, the national focal point gender, and if they attach any information. This dashboard aims to provide users with complementary insights for analyzing the responses to the national reports. On Part B, as you can see here for Article 3, each page contains the aggregated response from parties with a pie graph with the overall values in percentage and a stack bar chart illustrating the data broken down by region. Here, as I mentioned, these are the results from the full national report that we received in 2021. And here you have the replies from the questions I'm showing now. Like on the short reports on Article 3, here you can also see, I'm not going to, on the interest of time, I cannot go through all the pages, but just to give you a sneak peek of the results regarding now the questions that need to be submitted now for the short reports. And you can see now this is for 3.5, and then on Mercury waste about facilities. You can see them on the screen. I wanted also to mention here that the dashboard harvests data automatically and in real time from the party responses on the online reporting tool database. As Claudia mentioned, the dashboard is accessible from the website on the reporting section. And as with all data processing, this is the first iteration of the dashboard, which we hope that it will continue to evolve in terms of technology and depth of information management. Future iterations of the dashboard may explore cross-reference and other ways of visualizing data. So stay tuned, and thank you very much. Back to you, Claudia.
Thank you very much, Anna. Do we have more slides? But just to say, we have 5 minutes left, and I don't see any questions popping up, but if you do have one, do please record it. What we'd like to just leave with you at the end here is just some tips, so to speak, for the national reporting. The first one is, if you haven't been using it already, we would like to recommend for you to use the offline paper version as your first entry into what is required for the short reports. It's structured exactly as you would find it in the ORT, and we hope it will make your job much easier than needing to have many different files open to answer the 4 questions. We would like to encourage you to try to identify and also double check that the attachments and links that you might be adding are working, so that by the time you press submit, that nothing has changed maybe on your websites or so, as once we check the reports when they've come in, we would then be able to download the attachments and so on that you would like to share with the Secretariat for those questions. The other tips are very self-explanatory, so I won't recite them here, but they have also been shared in previous reporting cycles. And what we would like to underline is that reporting is supposed to be meaningful, both for you as parties to reflect on your own performance, on the effectiveness of what you've been able to achieve, but also to be able to find a space to identify when something has not been quite as effective as you had hoped or as productive as you hope. And here I just want to recall one of the comments that was in one of the earlier slides, which I might have gone over a bit too fast. We did notice as a Secretariat that in some questions when parties said no, they had not done A or B or C, that it was not so easy to discern if the party had said no because they had an implementation challenge or they had a reporting challenge. And this is an important distinction, of course, and both need to be supported, of course, but where you do face one of the two, whether it's a reporting challenge or an implementation challenge, please do record any information in the free space text that is provided there, so that it comes to the attention of the Secretariat, and it also is then able to be fed through the Secretariat report to the Implementation and Compliance Committee, which has a facilitative role and would like to be informed of challenges that you may have, so that they may have a better picture of your ability to progress in your obligations. With that, I don't see any more or any questions. Perhaps we have given you too much information to digest so quickly, so please do feel free. If you don't have a question right now, please absolutely feel free to come back to us at our general mailbox, or any of us individually if you would like to have some more explanations. And let me also say that this presentation and the recording will of course be made available. I don't see any more questions, so if I may use a moment just to give you an information piece, which is the next slide. Yes, of course, sorry, that is very important. We look forward to receiving all of your reports by the 31st of December, and it is so lovely to have 93% of our reports in. We hope we are able to maintain this very, very strong momentum going forward. But the next slide is the information slide, where I just want to invite you to come to our other events on the Minamata Online calendar. This is the second of this particular phase, season 3, phase 2. The launch of the second short reports, but as you can see, a couple of others are upcoming, and we hope they will be useful to your work and those of your colleagues. And with that, and if I may just use the last minute for a personal comment, as this is in fact my last Minamata Online session with you, after 7 years with the Minamata Secretariat and 14 with UNEP. I will now be stepping down as Senior Policy and Coordination Officer to take up a different assignment in the UN system. But I would like to just thank you, thank the parties for your incredible work to make this convention come to life. It has been such an honor to walk this journey with you, and I'm so impressed how strong and confident Minamata is, and I wish all of you the very, very best for COP5. And with that, thank you.